Jerry Harrison from, he produces records now, but he was in Talking Heads. And they all did their own version, stuck them together in their own way. I didn't show them my version, gave them no idea what it would be like. And they each came up with radically different ideas conceptually. I think one producer, he liked the instrumental bits more than the vocal bits, so it was a substantially instrumental construction. Another guy seemed to try and make songs out of the pieces that I had, even though they weren't actually in literal song form. So the program thing at the top, that's you pick one of those, one of the 5 producers, me and 4 other producers. Give me your version of what you think the record is like. Then you can change, essentially, all of the other aspects of it. Excuse me. Direction means that we're not talking about literally playing the sound backwards. We're saying that you've got a verse, chorus, verse, chorus, verse, chorus. Play it backwards. Chorus, verse, chorus, verse, chorus, verse. In other words, it would play the musical sections in whatever direction that you wanted. The form might be play only the verses. Or play only the choruses. I like the hook so much, I just want to hear this chorus over and over and over again. Tempo, of course, you know, how fast or slow should the song be? The mood, is it happy? Is it sad? Is it pensive? The mix, can you take some of those instruments out because I can't hear what the vocals are doing? You know, remove some of those, or remove the vocals. I'm more interested in what the instruments are doing. And then video was just a little screensaver to go along with that. Now, an interesting aside, you see that middle box there. Oh, there we go. For you gearheads in the audience, the essential software construct of this is a continuously variable Gaussian random number generator. Hands up if you know what that is. There you go, okay. A random number generator is kind of like that wheel. The ideal random number generator is like that wheel or like a hat, like that. You got all the numbers that you possibly want in it, and you pick them out one at a time until they're all gone. And so the likelihood of any number coming up is equal to the total number of possibilities divided by 1. Or 1 divided by the total number of possibilities. If you want to have something kind of like less than random, but still kind of random, you apply a Gaussian filter to those numbers. Now, Gaussian means bell-shaped. So what you could do here is, as you notice, I've got the tempo here, and there's one of the, it says fast. And we've got the other tempo. Oops, dear me, I didn't mean to hit that. And right now, it's what these 2 buttons do would roll this barrel of options around. So one of them was the focus in the center. And this would expand or contract the width of that bell shape so that you could contract it until you got the exact same thing every time. Or you could expand it until you got that ideal randomness of like never the same thing repeated twice. So this is the way that it doesn't become monotonous. You could contract this down and get exact predictability in the kind of music that you got, or you could expand it all the way and get total randomness in terms of what you got. But again, it's within the constructs that you decide. Stare at this thing for a while I tell you what happened next. We were approached after this by the Time Warner Full Service Network, which doesn't exist anymore. But it was the first experiment, first legitimate full-scale experiment in interactive television. In Orlando, Florida, they found a neighborhood. They put fiber to the curb and high-speed wired into the houses. And each house was supposed to be equipped with an interactive set-top box, and the set-top box was an SGI Indie. Well, literally at the time when they were doing it, SGI Indie. It was so big and heavy it nearly crushed half the TVs it sat on. And our mandate was to go out, well, was first to design a system. That wasn't hard because we had this previous work. To design a system that would allow people to have on-demand music services in their homes. This was like 1994 or something. So we designed the system. We didn't go to the full programming thing because we had one problem. We didn't have the content to deliver into people's homes. And so the next step was, or the next most important step after proof of concept, was to go to all the record labels and say, would you allow your music to be put on servers so that we can experiment with it to see how much demand there is in this experimental community for on-demand music services. And we went to what was 6, I believe, remaining major record labels and legacy holders at that point. And I think at least half of them wouldn't even take a meeting with us on that basis. And of the ones that did, they were pretty much polite, entertaining the idea and stuff like that, but nobody could wrap their brains around it. There were a couple of problems. One was going to each and every artist who might participate in this and getting some licensing arrangement for what might happen in the future. The other was that they depended on retail. They depended on not just the big, giant stores like Walmart, but every mom and pop store that sold records in any particular manner. They would be so pissed off that they would say, I'm not going to shelve your records anymore. So essentially, we couldn't even get Warner Brothers. This is the Time Warner Full Service Network. We couldn't even get Warner Brothers to license a single artist to experiment with like on-demand music services. So that never went anywhere. And I recall that it wasn't too long after that I was living in San Francisco and I would get regular tours of all the big industries around Silicon Valley, and I was on a little tour of SGI because we were supposedly working with the SGI box, and I don't remember if it was Bill Joy or Scott McNeely, but one of them showed me the first internet browser, which was Netscape, of course, but the first time I had seen the internet, which previously was confined to military installations and universities. The public had no idea what that was. And they were just now rolling out, Netscape was rolling out, and people were going to discover what the internet was, the public at large. And one of the first things that happened was obviously inspired by an educational institution probably, but right up the coast here in Santa Cruz, a couple of guys decided that the internet was a great way to break unsigned bands, and that they would put up a site and unsigned bands could post their music and anybody could download the music, and that was a way for you to get some exposure using the internet. This was a evolution. It's not revolutionary. It's an evolutionary concept. Because previous to that, the belief was that if you did not eventually get a record deal, you were eternally musically unviable until you got signed to a record label. And suddenly here was all of the things that a record label would offer you, expanded audience, etc., opportunities to gig in other places. And actually, IUMA has existed until probably just a year or year and a half ago. Was bought up by an Italian company, and they tried to keep it going. It just couldn't fail, probably because they were too well-meaning in the first place. There was no money changing hands in this at all. They took contributions to keep the servers up, and it essentially was a public service. Then came Napster. Suddenly, the record industry is having their lunch eaten right in front of them. This was not like 3 years, 4 years since we were sitting there saying, put your music on a server, we'll just find out whether people want to get it from that server. And then suddenly there's Napster. And they're all acting like, oh, what an insult, And so who gets involved in the act now but, oh, wait a minute, let me go back a little bit. Let me go forward a little bit. There. Who gets involved but the RIAA? Now, Napster, this was a very vague legal area here, so Napster fended them off for a good long time under the model of, people, usually, a lot of arguments. People are downloading music they already have. It's just more convenient, things like that. A lot of this is all because of this. This and things like this. That's iTunes. That's the iTunes logo.